What's going on? We're live in New York City. It's the Build Series. I'm Kevin Kenny. We've got a trio on the show today that blends alt with rock, with pop, with folk in a very cool way, and they've got a great new song out right now, Disaster Party. Please welcome Magic Giant to Build.
Hey, hey.
Thank you.
Hey.
Can we actually, we were showing your music video for Disaster Party to our fans here in New York City, but can we actually run it back right now on the monitor for you at home? Because this is, I love this video, and I'm picking up on a lot of influences, and I don't know if I'm projecting myself, but I'm getting like Jane's Addiction Caught Stealing vibes. I'm getting like 1979 Smashing Pumpkins vibes. Were there any sort of creative inspirations behind the visuals here?
Yeah, Jane's Addiction, that was a really fun video, and I think that's one of those things you see as a kid and it stays a seed in your mind.
Right.
So when we were shooting it, running around, I think it definitely came out. It was kind of like we were throwing a party in there.
And it's a mixture of that and, you know, the Blink-182 video where they're kind of running around naked, almost like chickens with their...
Is that What's My Age Again?
Yeah, so it's like, it's a similar thing where it's like something crazy is happening and no one has control of it.
Yeah. Was that ever on the table? You guys just going totally naked?
Yeah, you know, we've talked about it.
We were actually naked, and then they asked us to put, when we showed up for the video, and then they said, I think this one will be clothed.
Yeah, there's the Red Hot Chili Peppers where they had the sock. Oh, yeah. I feel like that's the Mount Everest of bands being kind of naked.
I congratulate you guys in the back, but I wanted to congratulate you once again on GMA. If you're watching us live on Friday, I believe, right? You're going to be on Good Morning America performing live? That's tomorrow. All right, wow.
Tomorrow.
Wow. You guys are like so cool about it, though. I'd be so nervous, no?
Yeah, we're getting all our
Old
nerves
hat?
out on Build.
There you go, yeah. This is the warm-up. But it is interesting. I love to talk to bands, especially you guys that have played so many festivals, right? From Coachella to Bottle Rock to Firefly and everything in between. Do you get more nervous with an audience like sort of tangibly in front of you, or one that's far larger but behind a camera, let's say, on television?
I get more nervous talking to my relatives in Farsi.
Yeah.
And like any of this stuff, it all kind of, it feels good. I mean, we have such like beautiful people that come to our shows that are really sweet, and they treat us like the best friends they've ever had. So it's like, it feels good, man. It's really nice.
Yeah, and the stage can feel like your living room, even though it doesn't matter how many people are out there. Just we create our stage and we have our show that we're doing, so that's a really comfortable place. So it's just we're just bringing it no matter where we go.
Right. But I mean, that's a great place to perform from, but that has to take some time to sort of master, right? Because I totally get what you're saying, where, you know, you're more nervous talking to people from your hometown or what have you. I'm the exact same way. I'm sure we all are. But you are sort of exposing yourself a little bit on stage, not in the Red Hot Chili Peppers kind of way. But
Not yet.
But no, but how do you get to a point as an artist where you kind of can be that free and not, you know, vulnerable to judgment?
I always feel like it just has to do with how prepared you are. So when we try a new song, sometimes and like if I don't know all the lyrics yet, you know, sometimes I'm nervous on that. But we've been doing this now for, I don't know, 5+ years, and like when we get into a rhythm or a flow, then it feels more comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be a thing, like if we're on stage or something happens, you know, you can either kind of, if something happens that you didn't expect, you can kind of laugh it off. So even if it's like a mistake, it can become like a joke, and then it's just funny. So we'll look at each other while we're performing, and like we know that something just kind of went off the rails, but like it's just nobody knows. It's just the show.
Dude, that's so awesome.
They'll be laughing at me or whatever.
No,
Shooting
but
me a
seriously
look,
though,
like,
dude, this is like, I think, the pinnacle of like artistic expression. Every band wants to be as free as you guys seemingly are. So I just think that's awesome.
If you can just like let go of the stakes, you know, like, all right, what's it matter anyway? Or let's just have fun because it's like, who cares? You know, I don't know, just let go of that. Then you can be more free, I think.
Now, have you guys always been like that as people? Just carefree, like whatever happens, happens kind of dudes? Or is that something that only came out of you guys through art, through music?
I mean, I think when we're performing live, it's very carefree, but even when we're writing songs, it's like, it's with intention, and we talk about it, and we like put real thought into it. So we're carefree, but also...
I think we flip a switch when we're like going live or playing a show. It's like, okay, now everything's done. We just have to put it all out on the floor here, and that's all we have. You know?
That's really interesting. So the overthinking, if it ever happens in the creating process.
Yeah, I think it almost happens before you hit the stage.
Right. But once the meal's cooked, the meal's cooked.
Yeah, just enjoy, man.
It's a
That's
feast
really
now.
cool. I've never
And I
heard
feel like
before.
growing up, I mean, everyone goes through this, is like everything's a bigger deal than it needs to be.
Right.
And then I think as we grow up, we realized it actually wasn't as big a deal as we thought it was going to be.
You can build up a situation so large in your mind, and then
Oh,
it happens,
crazy.
and it's like psh, it's just a poof of smoke, and it's gone. But you can think about it for beforehand for days. You know?
Was there a life event that happened to any of you that really put that into perspective? Because it seems like, if we're lucky, we all reach that point that you guys are at, but it usually comes through hardship maybe. But was there just something that put it all in perspective for you guys?
Like I broke my ankle when I was 12, and I was like crying and in a cast, and I was like, oh no, like I can't play basketball or whatever. And that's how I started writing music.
Oh, no way.
My mom signed me up for a songwriting camp instead, and it was the best thing that ever happened.
That's great.
I'm sure breaking your ankle, dude.
Yeah,
Thanks,
right.
Zambricki has a more extreme version of that story.
Yeah,
where he
but
actually-
I mean, as far as the music and the songs go, I think we've talked about as songwriters like the triumph of the human will or the human condition. So in our music, I think that's something that like we strive for, even if we don't always get there. Yeah. So when we're writing and we're creating songs that we want to bring out to the stage, that's just kind of like a narrative we have. So I don't think it's something that we've even found yet, but it's something that we're working towards.
Yeah. You guys talk about the triumph, and this is going to sound very the human condition. It's going to sound very random, but I promise I'll tie it back to you guys.
Cool.
We had Omarion from B2K on the show
Oh, yeah.
yesterday, and he was talking about how he struggled so much with his happiness and in his personal life because he couldn't find his purpose. And then he found his purpose, and it was just to bring joy to his audience, right? Which is probably a simplistic way of putting it. But I feel like that's probably at the top of your guys' list just from listening to your music. I mean, it's kind of at the heart of what this song's all about. You know what I mean? It's just to enjoy yourself while you're here and make the best of what you got, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And to tie it into, just like you said, this song, we were in the studio writing a song before this, and it was during the wildfires in California, which is where we're from. We're from Los Angeles. And there were wildfires happening right outside the studio in that same neighborhood. And as it was happening, the neighbors, like, they never really knew each other. You don't really see your neighbors. And in LA, we have more space, so like you hardly ever talk to your neighbors.
Yeah, you might wave or something or give like a nod, but you might not even know their name or get into it.
Yeah, but during these fires, they kind of like, because all the firefighters were so busy, like in other cities and all over the town, they kind of banded together. They fought this fire together with hoses and buckets. And it was just like this sort of, wow, you can build community through trials and tribulations. You can either like band together and get through something, or you can maybe scatter and go run and hide or whatever it may be. But like, I think we choose to just throw a freaking rager and have a good time, because that's, if the world's going to end, you might as well go out with a bang.
Yeah. It's such a cool response to you can use it for anything. Of course, the trauma that struck your neighborhood. How scary was that at the time? Because I feel like, we were watching it on Twitter and the news on the East Coast, you could empathize just from a human perspective, but I think it was hard to really capture just the devastation.
Yeah, I mean, Austin was evacuated from where he lives in Topanga, and his brother actually called me because he wasn't picking up his phone. So I called the fire department, and we were like looking for him, but then he just didn't have his phone on him. He was walking the dog. So it was like really dramatic. But I just think overall, the tensions get raised. So even like what's happening right now with like the coronavirus is like people take things that weren't really a sniffle or something, all of a sudden gets analyzed. So I think the same thing happens with the fires, where all of a sudden it's like, oh, where is he? He didn't call me back. He's probably stuck. That kind of thing.
But once I did get the news, it was intense. It was intense, like when it was like mandatory evacuation and we didn't know how long we had, getting out of there. And the year before, we had like the dog was at the house and we had to go back and get the dog and barely got out in time, and then they closed the road. And it was like, yeah. So
it's not even if the fire's coming to your place, you could also just be getting shut out of it, because they'll shut down portions of the city or highways kind of as it happens.
we just on this tour, we played in Nashville like a couple weeks ago, and now the
Basement East,
yeah,
right?
Basement East is done.
You guys were
And
just
I mean,
hopefully-
I don't know if it's done.
Well, yeah.
It was hit really badly, and it was an old cinder block building, and it's completely looks like it got hit by a bomb.
And that was a really important venue, just if you want to give context, right? Because that is a venue that really supported underground music and indie music, and for just the local scene there, that was a
Yeah,
huge,
absolutely.
huge
Mike
venue.
Grimes, who owns it, also owns Grimey's record store, which is like a big record shop institution, and then they had the original basement, which I think is fine. It didn't get hit. So yeah, it was interesting because if you look at photos, on Instagram and stuff. There's it's I believe in Nashville is on the wall, and the entire. And I remember when we were there looking at it because I actually lived there during the Nashville floods, and it really actually brought up a spirit in Nashville that wasn't entirely there before, and the city just kind of bootstrapped and took care of itself so quickly that it almost didn't become as much of a national conversation that some other things that happened were. So that brought out a spirit in Nashville. And I remember looking at, on the side of Basement East, looking at that on the wall and saying, wow, I believe in Nashville, and thinking about the floods and how they overcame it. And then when the tornado hit, it knocked down most of the building except I believe in Nashville is still standing. So I think it's incredible. I think Nashville's going to come back stronger. East Nashville is just going to come back.
Did you feel living in Nashville changed you as an artist?
Yeah, I felt like it was so inspiring, the amount of people there who are incredible writers, incredible musicians, and so serious about their craft. It was just like a big, I felt like it was college or something. It was just like going out and seeing these different writers, and you just it was competitive in a really creative way, whereas some cities are competitive in different ways. Like, it's like, oh, cool, who do you know who your friends are? But in Nashville, it's like, what song can you write? And what do you bring to the table? And that's the only thing that matters.
Competitive in the best of ways, maybe.
Yeah, it's kind of the best kind of competitive, where it's purely about the art you create and not about kind of some of the other things that happen in the business.
Yeah. Did you guys write this in a bunker?
We wrote it pretty much. I mean, we have a recording studio in Los Angeles that we created from a bunker that
from the 1940s.
Yeah, it was actually 1960s. It was a Bay of Pig invasions. Not to get in the weeds on it, but I was like JFK, and that was a real thing. Like, it's a little sentence in your history book when you read it. But I mean, when they were going through that was years of where they thought World War III was going to happen. Right. So they built one on our property, and actually the next door, the neighbors each built a bunker. Like, they built 2 bunkers next to each other.
This is like that Brendan Fraser movie. Blast from the Past?
Ooh.
Nobody? Yes,
One. We got one.
What movies do you watch?
Dude, Alicia Silverstone, that was a rad movie, man.
Okay,
Look that up, man.
We'll watch it on the bus, tour bus.
Please. I recommend a good soundtrack at the very least. But no, never mind. I'm not even going to explain it. That died. How does that, I wanted to get to how does that affect the making of the music and just like the sonics of it? Because some people, they'll rent a big house in the hills, right, because they want to feel comfortable, and you can sometimes hear that in a second record or what have you. But recording in a bunker, I imagine it's a small space. I've never been inside a bunker, but it's tight quarters, right?
Almost the size of this room, maybe.
Yeah,
okay.
It's pretty large. It was meant, I mean, I think
Maybe
you can,
half the
And it's
size.
below ground.
it's underground, and it's like we have it looks like a tool shed. So if you would just walk by it, and then if you open the tool shed, it's actually stairs that go to a secret underground
So
location.
did that have any effect or no effect at all?
I mean, I think it has the effect, and a lot of times when you're writing or creating, it is kind of, you're coming from a kind of solitary place or a focused place where, some people might write looking at palm trees and like the breaking waves, but I mean, sometimes you can write a song, looking at a brick wall, because everything that's going on is happening in your imagination. It's just the story you want to tell. So I think it's just having a place where there's no other noise. I mean, you can't hear cars, city at all. You're just completely enclosed underground, and you can make as much noise as you want, and no one else can hear it.
It's just you and
Yeah.
your thoughts.
Yeah.
You can play whenever, but also I think actually a big change that we made recently, which we got from a producer here in New York, Ito, inspired us, is that we now record and engineer in the same room.
Okay.
So instead of we have this control room upstairs, but it's like all about immediacy in terms of the creative process, so that we have an idea, we can record it, and we're all together in the same room vibing off of each other.
Which is interesting to me, because I think that's where, whether you want to call it alt, pop, whatever, it falls behind, say, like a hip-hop genre, because it's the lack of the immediacy in production. It just takes longer because of the instruments involved and the ingredients.
You got to tune the instruments.
Well, you know what I mean? Yeah, well, just, and there's
Yeah,
just, you can't just
absolutely.
hop in a booth and, lay it down. But it sounds like you guys are kind of moving towards that in terms of the quicker turnaround, which is cool.
Absolutely.
Right on. Speaking of like just different genres and you guys occupying a bunch of different spaces, working at an alternative radio station, I sometimes find it funny when like at a holiday show, like Jimmy Eat World will go on right before like a Mumford or like of Monsters and Men, and it's because like all of these sounds have fused over the past 10 or so years. Do you guys ever find yourself more comfortable in one area or the other? Do you guys find yourself more at home with like more pop leaning acts, more rock leaning acts? Have you ever thought about that?
I mean, as far as like what's inspired me, it's
Miley Cyrus.
yeah, Miley Cyrus is my girl. No, well, why not?
Yeah.
But I mean, like the Strokes, like so they're just the Strokes are a classic New York rock act, alternative rock act. But then it goes all the way to like Freddie Mercury from Queen and Brian May, and like the way they just bend genres and are like they're a theatrical act, or are they a band, or are they a film? I'm not exactly sure.
Queen is like its own genre.
And that's what I love about it. It's like they don't care about what is what. And they put a song on the radio that's 9 minutes long or whatever, however long Bohemian Rhapsody is.
Shot a video for it. You don't even think about that.
Incredible,
Crazy.
yeah. So I think we admire that sort of thing. That like you don't need to fit us in a box,
That's cool.
Yeah, whatever feels good, whatever makes your heart pound.
Yeah.
Sometimes it shows it's kind of, I mean, we played with Wu-Tang Clan a few years ago, and we played before Wu-Tang Clan, and it was awesome. Like, I would do that.
And it was like After Us Thievery Corporation or something.
Yeah. So I think, and we've just been on tour with American Authors and a band called Public, and, Public, we don't sound anything like Public, and it was actually really nice to have the difference in the show. So they were opening up for us, and it's completely different tones. So then we bring, when we come out, it's like, oh yeah, it's just like a refresh. It's just like palate cleanser. Boom.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Let's get to Twitter right now. This comes from Julie. I got to experience the Band of Brothers tour. That's the one with American Authors in Public. He just wrapped up about a week ago, and it was amazing. What was the catalyst behind that tour idea?
We've gotten to know the authors, guys, over the last few years, and actually, Zach, the singer, has come to a festival that we throw called Camp Misfits, and so we've really become close with that. It's this festival in Northern California, in the Redwoods that we started. This is our 3rd annual this September. So,
and that festival itself is super collaborative. We bring like all of our friends that are both musicians and writers and directors and comedians, and it's like a big sort of. It's not just like watch a performer on a stage. It's that as well as like also take a songwriting workshop from that artist.
Yeah, and Zach from American Authors taught a songwriting workshop at the camp. So he came, he performed, we played with him there, and then
and we played a bunch of songs together at the campfire, and then also at the main stage, and it was like it just felt like a big party with all of our favorite musicians and friends, and that kind of inspired this like, why don't we just join bands and like do
Keep
this
it going.
collaborative thing?
Yeah, right.
So when we came together to work on the show with them, it was like it felt comfortable in the way as we had a song with them called Rocket Man where they came and featured. So it was just kind of like we built to it. But I thought it was a really fun way to tour, and if bands could do it more.
It was very different because it was like we were intertwining our shows, hopping on each other's songs.
Yeah, so it's like
Every
they play a
night was-
set, we play a set, combined.
We basically did a
set.
coin toss at the beginning of the night for who started. Yeah.
So it made it like I almost felt like we were the Rockettes or something, because you play a few, and then you go backstage, eat a guacamole chip. All right,
the
you ready?
Rockettes movie with Brendan Fraser. Yeah. Okay.
So it's fun. I felt like we were putting on a big, just a play or something. It was really cool just to work out different ways that the two bands can work together, other than like you play, we play, everybody goes home. Right. That's been the format for Co-Headline for a long time.
Yeah, that's really cool how cohesive it sounds like it was.
Yeah,
And what a great idea with this festival, because I feel like you guys know better than anybody. It's impossible to even see people that you consider close friends when you do what you do for a living, and at the very least, it's like a once-a-year reunion for everybody.
Yeah, we force them to come to our festival. You better hang out with me.
All right, let's get to some audience questions here in New York City. The first is going to come from Kevin.
Hey guys, how you doing?
What's up, Kevin?
Hey, Kevin.
So you guys talked a lot about your songwriting in the bunker. I was just curious, when you have an idea, do you immediately try to work on that, or do you wait to get in the bunker, do all your songwriting there, and then record right after?
I think it's different, but I think we try to capture it immediately, and that's just voice memo, or we just try to record it. Because when you're writing, sometimes, especially if you're doing stream of consciousness, where you're just kind of writing and you're not analyzing it as you write, because if you're psychoanalyzing what you're writing as you're writing, you might actually become lame and just write some weird stuff that's not cool. So you got to let the stream of consciousness going. So we capture it just on whatever we can, and then when we go to produce it, I feel like that's when we flesh it out, and then we might start talking more. What is the song about? And like, what are we trying to say? Can happen later. But as far as the seed of the idea, which a lot of times is the bulk of the song, or like the essence of the song, I feel like you got to capture it in that first minute.
And I think that's the one thing about the creative process is that it's never you can't really put instructions on it, right? It's not like I'm going to think of an idea and then bring it to the band. Sometimes we get together and then Austin's like, oh, I have this really cool melody that's been stuck in my head all day. And I was like, oh, I had this idea that's been stuck in my head about this concept. And then just the song can shape that way. Or it can be like a whole story that Zambricki comes to us with, and he tells us a story, and then we write a song that's just inspired by the story from scratch. So it really, there's no right or wrong, or there's no route that we try to take. It just kind of all happens randomly, unfortunately.
Is there like a gatekeeper or almost like a step in the process from getting it from like a voice memo to actually trying to lay it down? Like, is there anything where you go, we're not giving
Yeah,
it time?
definitely. We shoot each other's ideas down so often, and I think that's something so beautiful about us, is that like we don't get offended or hurt. It's all we know how to talk to each other and say, hey, that's not cool, or like, what if we do this? Or just we're really open, and I think that helps us create the best.
We also do it on the road. Like, we have a song on this tour that it's almost like our work in project song. So it's not out yet. We're still writing it, but we're just playing it on the tour. I think sometimes artists, you can be too precious about something, and you're like, all right, it's going to come out when it's popping hot. And I think there's something to be said for that. But like on this tour, we've been writing a song that as we played it, or we improved it as it went. And now when we go to record it, we have something that's closer to, I think, the best version of it.
Do you weight like different cities? You don't have to name the cities, but like, what if you love this song and it's working everywhere, but it just like doesn't do anything? It's like the Brendan Fraser movie of a particular set in a city. Do you give a lot of thought to that, or you just go, oh, it must have just been a weird night, weird town?
Yeah, I think it's not weird night, weird town. Maybe weird night, we need to keep working on it.
Yeah.
Like if something, because certain people have different bars for what kind of moves them.
Right on.
And if it works emotionally, then I think if it's working emotionally and people are feeling something, then I think it's getting there.
Gotcha. Cool.
Right, as long as it's moving us and moving a few people a lot,
Yeah.
like that's a testament. And then it's going to resonate with more people.
Yeah, and I think we take the blame. If it's not working, then we just didn't perform it well enough, or we didn't have the energy.
Or we need to change something. I mean, we do sometimes, even if it's in that one city, and then we're like, hey, what if we did this? Or someone will make a suggestion. Or
I love that ownership, though. I was at a show in Brooklyn recently, and I won't name the act, but they just kept yelling at the audience for like not being hype enough. And I was like, brother, it's not the audience.
Oh, no.
Speaking of Brooklyn, this is a nice segue. This next question comes from Brooklyn.
hey.
So you guys just finished this really amazing co-headlining tour. What artists would you like to collaborate with next?
Wow.
You're talking about co-headline style, like how we just did it?
Or in the studio? Both. Who could you go in the studio with, and who would you like to tour with?
Wow.
You mentioned Mumford & Sons earlier. That'd be awesome. Always really like them.
I mean, like, I have dreams. Like, I would love to get in the studio with Julian Casablancas, and
For sure.
though I don't know, our show would be very strange together, which might be actually really cool to do the Strokes.
You guys could
and
literally, I
that
feel like, tour with anybody in the world of alternative, and that world has never been bigger, in my opinion.
Right.
I just feel like you guys have such a malleable, flexible sound, you know?
Yeah, and I think AJR could also be a really cool pairing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we have a lot of similarities in how our community comes out, and
Although very different in the creative approach. Those guys overanalyze almost
oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Cool. So that might be cool.
It's like a math equation.
We
of
can
how they
learn
come
from
up
each
with
other.
songs. Yeah.
We'll steal their ideas. They'll steal ours.
You don't think we overanalyze?
Look at you. Are you overanalyzing us?
Oh my
overanalyzing?
God. See? So maybe it's just me.
Awesome. By the way, Brooklyn was my friend that's seen the Brendan Fraser movie. 1 to
She
10.
was
1 to 10, the
the
Brendan
only
Fraser
one.
movie.
You have one friend.
1 to
We
10
have-
Rotten Tomatoes score from Brooklyn.
Airheads is like a 10, so that one's probably...
Oh, all right. I like, yeah. Airheads rules. I love Airheads. All right, awesome. Where the hell is this conversation going? We are unfortunately out of time. We spent the large majority of it on Brendan Fraser, guys. But in closing here, you guys are going to be live.
Brendan, come on out.
Let's just plug one more time. Good Morning America tomorrow morning. Do you know what hour?
I think it's at 8:55 a.m.
Oh, you know the
EST.
minute.
On the minute.
Oh, wow. All right, 8:55. Strahan better not be late. And then, of course, Disaster Party's out and available now. And a new record is on the way.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, in the works.
Anything you tease, or is it just too early on?
Probably summer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
Right
we
on.
have and then our festival Camp Misfits is the last weekend of September.
Oh, rad.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
And we could tease the music if you come to a show.
Yeah. Right on. I like these guys. Magic Giant, everybody. One more time.
Thank you.
Bye.